Welcome to another episode of the Speaking of Writers podcast, the podcast where stories come alive and authors share the secrets behind the pages. I'm Steve Richards, and today we're heading deep into the shadowy streets, those moss-draped squares, and simmering secrets of Savannah, Georgia. My guest today is best-selling suspense author Emily Carpenter, a master of Southern Gothic storytelling, known for weaving atmosphere, mystery, and unforgettable characters into page-turning novels. Her latest book, A Spell for Saints and Sinners, is a lush, dark, and intoxicating tale set in one of America's most haunted cities. It follows Ingrid White, a reluctant psychic struggling to save her inherited home and business until she becomes entangled with Savannah's elite and begins using powers that may come with dangerous consequences. Secrets, ambitions, privilege, magic, and something darker. This novel blurs the line between belief and deception in ways that will keep readers guessing until the final page. I'm happy to have Emily Carpenter back on the Speaking of Writers podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I'm so happy to be here.
It's great to have you. Every novel starts with a spark. Do you remember the exact moment when the idea for A Spell for Saints and Sinners first came to you?
I do. It's such an odd story that every time, every time I tell it, the listener says, "You what now?" But it is the truth, and I guess it's just an example of how strangely ideas can occur to us. I am a huge cinephile, love movies. I have seen many, many movies, but there was one classic movie I hadn't seen, and my son told me I needed to watch it. And it's Taxi Driver. Martin
Yeah.
Scorsese and Robert De
De
Niro,
Niro. Yeah.
written by Paul Schrader. And I guess for years, when I was younger, I felt it was very connected to the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. When I was,
Hmm.
and I always connected it to that in my mind, and so I didn't want to watch it anyway. Watched the film. I was completely blown away by it, of course, not surprisingly, but it really got me to thinking about people who are isolated and perhaps bullied, sort of outsiders in our society, and what they do to reach for power. And, I was thinking, of course, of the Travis Bickle character, and how he reached for power was through violence and collecting weapons. And I really started thinking about the flip side of that, the feminine side of that, what would a story about a woman who was an outsider, a real isolated sort of oddball type character be like? And I really started thinking that about how the feminine divine and found in witchcraft and paganism and Wicca is something that women tend to reach for before they reach for a gun in many
Mm.
cases. Not to generalize, but it was just my brain was going down all these sort of rabbit trails, and I thought, oh, that's a really fascinating story for me to write about, and is in my wheelhouse of Gothic and Southern Gothic. And then I was like, I had been waiting for the right story to come along that I would set in Savannah, and I was like, oh, this is it. She's a psychic witch in Savannah, and she's just trying to make a living, and then she gets caught up in, forces bigger than herself. So, yeah, it all came from Taxi Driver.
So let's talk about Savannah, a city I know well. It feels
Yeah.
like a character in this book. Was there a specific place, moment, or experience? I mean, there's so many places. There's so many squares, so little time in Savannah that
Right.
made you say, this is where the story lives.
Yeah. It at the Noble Hardy House, which is the I think it's the largest freestanding mansion in downtown historic Savannah. And it's, as far as I know, still not occupied. It used to be occupied when I first visited, it was occupied by Alex Raskin Antiques. And he had the main entrance of the store was the garden level of the mansion, and you would go in and he was there chatting with customers, and it was just a cluttered closed space. And legend was, if he liked you, he would suggest that you go upstairs into the main part of the big mansion and see the more antiques. And so I ventured in, and he indeed said to me, "Why don't you go upstairs and take a look around?" And so I toured that whole huge historic, completely abandoned mansion that was chock full of old, beautiful furniture, all the way up to the third floor, where I was overcome with a feeling of ghostly presence. And I scurried down all the way down to the bottom level and out the door. But that was like, I was like, I'm going to use this house as the home for the Loefflers, who are a very wealthy family. And it was perfect in my mind.
So that was the moment in that house that gave you the genuine chills, really.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was up at the very tip top level, and I realized I am the only person in this massive house. And I mean, it's still got the old curtains and the old wallpaper and the chandeliers, and the wallpaper is peeling. You feel like you're in a movie about a haunted house. But yeah, it was very, very eerie to
Mm.
be in that house.
Southern Gothic stories thrive on mood, heat, history, secrets, decay. When you're writing, how do you build that atmosphere so readers feel like they're walking those moss draped streets?
I feel it when I am in a place like that. So before I write a scene that is an interaction between humans, I have to I have to get that out of me. I have to tell you where you are, because that informs every scene of interaction between the humans. And so it's already in me, and I feel like that it is so important for the scene to be set. I think it's important to understand the paintings hanging on the wall, and the way the books are messy on the shelf, and the old upholstery, all the things you have to feel that to understand the tone, I guess, because when you write a book, there's no background music, and there's no lighting, and there are no like actors' faces to rely on, or costumes. So no visuals. So you really do have to sort of describe and not over describe.
Ingrid White, such a layered character, flawed, vulnerable, fiercely determined too. Who was she to you at the beginning of the story, and how did she change as you wrote her?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the story, like I said, so inspired by the idea of a real sort of outsider, like the taxi driver character. Um, and also very inspired by another literary character who is an outsider, named Carrie White, a character written by Stephen King. Both of them really looking for love, but maybe not knowing how to do it. So I started with, she was kind of a mashup of those characteristics. She started off, I thought maybe I was going to have her be a anti-heroine and like do really bad things and be cool with it. And it turned out I didn't want to write that. Like I really felt compassion for her, and I kept feeling her desperation to feel safe and to want to be loved and accepted and a part of a family. And I just didn't feel like she was that person. I just felt like she was, yes, naive and definitely flawed, but I just thought she was like a genuine person that I cared about. So she sort of, as I wrote, I guess I wrote her compassionately.
One of the most fascinating elements of this novel, Emily, is the world of wealth and privilege, the powerful Loeffler family. What drew you to explore the idea of social power alongside supernatural themes?
Well, I mean, just being in Savannah, I some of the conversations I overheard one day in a square were some conversations I put in the book. Just a couple of people talking about, we have the box seats at just casual conversation, and it really hits you when you're there and you see the divide between kind of the haves and the have-nots, and the working class who are kind of making this big engine of tourism happen and run and operate, and then all the money that keeps these giant beautiful historic homes going. And so you're surrounded by it. So I'm just, I think I am sort of fascinated by that interplay of classes and how they depend on one another, and how they might take advantage of one another because they don't walk in the other's shoes, you know? So that's just thematically always been very interesting to me, but I think it's so pronounced in Savannah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The story asks a haunting question. How far will people go to protect the life they want? Did writing this novel ever make you reflect differently on ambition or success?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know that it made me reflect differently. I think that it reflects that I think about it a lot.
Mm.
It is kind of, a lot of my books are about the questions that nag at me and that I can't ever fully answer. And that's one of them, is like, I am personally an ambitious person, and I want to succeed. I want to work hard and be rewarded for my work. And I get mad sometimes, or frustrated, or when it doesn't happen that way. And I think it's this constant tension of, like, being able to see what other people have and wanting that for yourself, and being like, why can't I have that? I feel like it's just such a human compulsion, and I'm definitely, I'm a victim of it sometimes. And so I think that book is just, I guess it's, Ingrid is partly me in some ways. I'm not struggling financially as badly as she is, but she wants to be accepted into a group, and I have a little bit of that in me, I think. And so I think that part of her was easy to write.
Mm.
In a way, yeah.
Emily, you're from Birmingham. You
Yes,
went to Auburn, War Eagle,
yes. War Eagle.
of course. How did you become a writer?
Um, so I get writing for me happened later in my life. I mean, I was always kind of writing in one way or the other. I read a lot. And then I, in my 20s, worked for the soaps, but just in like a desk job. I wasn't writing the scripts or acting or anything. But it was always around me, and I was always very interested in it. And then in my 40s, like, my kids were middle school age, high school, and I was like, and a woman that I had gone to school with published some YA novels. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's fabulous. And that's, you can do that, and that was when I started writing. So, it felt out of reach, before that. I guess really as the internet, came alive and bloomed, and it really made the career of being a writer a lot more accessible.
Have you always been fascinated by psychic phenomena, hexes, and folklore, or did this novel deepen that curiosity?
Always, 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 always. As a kid, like my favorite books were about like Lois Duncan down a dark hall, where the kids are at I can't remember the name of the boarding school, but they're all being like forcibly made to channel these great artists and finish their, work. And books that were spooky and a little taboo and had that kind of uh, theme in them were always just my jam. And I'm always curious about it. I am very curious about psychic phenomena, if it's real. I'm also on the flip side, like in on the religious side, very interested in religion and like prayer, and does prayer work, and how is prayer different than doing a spell, and like
Hmm.
how, saying the right words and having the right attitude. And sometimes it seems to converge a little bit, but I'm very fascinated with that, all the aspects of that and how we communicate with um, someone on the other side, whether that's a loved one that's passed away, or God, or the Holy Spirit, or whether we're like communing with, the cosmic will of the universe. Very interesting to me. And I don't have any answers
Hmm.
for anyone. I explore the questions, and you know, my personal beliefs are not as interesting. I think what is interesting is exploring the questions and the possibilities.
You touched on this earlier. You worked in soaps as an actor, producer, screenwriter too. Do you still see scenes visually, almost like a film, when you're writing suspense?
Always. And I don't write a book like I would write a movie, because they are really two different animals. However, I do write my book in a very cinematic way, in a very cinematic way, I believe, because I do see them visually. And yeah, I see everything. The clothes that I see everything except for the exact actor or character's face. That is kind of a blur to me, which is kind of strange, but yeah, that's the way it is.
What is next for you in your writing?
So I have a book coming out next year. That sounds weird to say that already. 2027. It is working title is Swamp Music, and it is a retelling of Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. It is set in Alabama's Northwest, Muscle Shoals Americana roots music
Yeah.
scene.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's a contemporary retelling, and had a lot of fun researching and studying for that. It's about a musician who signs with a kind of iconoclastic, reclusive producer up there in Muscle Shoals, and she's a banjo player. So I took up the banjo to research, and that's been a lot of fun. I'm really bad, but it's fun.
And let me guess, it'll be out in March. March is your month, right?
No, I actually, they're saying like possibly summer. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
they may be pushing it to summer. We'll see. I'll have more details later, but yeah, up till now I've been, in that March slot, but we'll see.
All right, we're going to wrap up with our rapid fire bonus round here of questions. First thing that comes to mind, coffee or tea while writing?
Coffee, always.
Early morning writer or late night storyteller?
Early morning.
Ghost tours, love them or avoid them?
Love them. They're in the book.
Favorite Southern Gothic novel of all time?
Oh, probably I think To Kill a Mockingbird is
Mm.
Southern Gothic. And that's my favorite. And I was just at the Monroeville Literary Festival, which is Harper Lee's hometown.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, my fave.
All right. And one word to describe Savannah.
Uh, Ethereal.
Great word for it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Emily Carpenter, talking about her mesmerizing new novel, A Spell for Saints and Sinners, a story filled with secrets, ambition, and shadows lurking behind Savannah's beautiful, and they are beautiful, facades. If you love Southern Gothic, suspense, psychological intrigue, and stories that keep you turning pages late into the night, this is one book you'll want to add to your reading list. You'll find A Spell for Saints and Sinners wherever books are sold. Emily, thank you again for joining me here.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching and for listening to the Speaking of Writers podcast. Like it, share it, subscribe to it, write a review. I'm Steve Richards. I will talk to you again next time.